The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
I'm CJ.
And I'm Niza.
And boy, is it going to be a show today. My phone and my email has been going bananas for the past, I would say, 16, 18 hours. I'm on the agenda for the school committee. I was stunned. I'm actually on the agenda in regards to an open meeting law violation. And this is the reply from Bruce Assad, corporate counsel for the school department. And it's kind of lengthy.
He gets paid by the page.
But, you know, interestingly enough, you know, he answers part of the complaint a little bit, but then he says, it is hereby requested that the Office of the Attorney General grant the school committee an extension of 14 business days from the date of its next school committee meeting, which is scheduled for November 23rd, 2015, to review and respond to the complaint. Why? So that you can do what I'm complaining about? And in the complaint, I stated very clearly, and you know, I'm going to actually read it word for word, because I think the people need to hear it. As is demonstrated on the attached agendas, September 14, 2015 and October 13, 2015, the Fall River School Committee regularly goes into executive session without a description of why and what matters will be discussed. The agendas regularly just list names and not reason for executive session, which is required under the law. Further, the school committee goes into executive session to conduct regular evaluations of contract employees, and I put the superintendent's name in parentheses, to deprive the citizens of the right to hear the evaluation of the employee's successes and failures. These evaluations do not have any reprimand, contract negotiation, litigation, or collective bargaining exclusion as listed under Mass General Law 30A, Sections 21A, Sub 3, 6, and 8. This pervasive and continuous behavior endorsed by counsel of Attorney Bruce Assad, corporate counsel, now requires actions by the Attorney General's office. My request is that the public body and its corporate counsel must undergo open meeting law training, retraining. All agendas must clearly state the reasons for executive session with all information regarding the issue and a clear and concise definition of the reason for executive session within the confines of Mass General Law 30A. Now, we know that you cannot discuss collective bargaining contracts in public. You cannot make them out there because that does affect your ability to negotiate.
And it's also prohibited by law.
Yeah, and it is
specifics of contract negotiations.
Right.
You cannot discuss that because there is a legal prohibition about that.
But I mean, I'm going to read in the September 14th executive session request, where they put in their agenda for the executive session, to conduct strategy sessions in preparations for all litigation or grievances, as well as negotiations with custodians, paraprofessionals, clerical, FREA, FRAA, and non-union personnel, and then they go including, and then they list the names of the people. And they also include the superintendent of schools. Now, on the October 13th request for executive session, to conduct strategy sessions and preparations for all litigation or grievances, as well as negotiations with custodians, paraprofessionals, clerical, FREA, FRAA, and non-union personnel, including, and then they list the people, and again they list Magneo Brown. Now, my problem with this is the general public, the general person who reads this, and Chip, if you disagree with it, please let me know, would assume that the school committee is now going in to negotiate the contracts or the grievances of every single union represented by the Fall River School Department. I mean, they list them all: custodians, paraprofessionals, clerical, FREA, FRAA, and non-union personnel. They list everybody. So does the city school committee have to meet in executive session every single meeting to discuss every contract and grievance over and over again without specifics on why?
Well, that's a very, very, you can tell an attorney drafted that statement, because it does basically give them the right to go into executive session for certain things. If you're discussing pending litigation, if you're discussing contract negotiation proposals, strategies and proposals, you don't do that in a public forum. However, that's the catch-22 that you're facing. When they're using that kind of giant umbrella to cover everything, what they do is, then once they close the doors in their executive session, you don't know what they're doing. And if they're conducting evaluations of the superintendent, the reality is, maybe some of these things should be in the public light. And that's one of the problems that we have with this kind of shadow government. You have to be more specific, and they'll say, well, this is pretty specific. But as you said, it kind of smacks of really, come on. You're discussing that many things. They'd be in executive session for 2 days.
Right.
I know we literally spent an entire day discussing proposals for contracts and stuff like that. And you're talking about every union and every aspect, and pending grievances and arbitrations, et cetera. This to me is kind of like a general statement, almost like the statement they're not required to read before the meetings that said you can tape meetings, it's
Right.
allowed.
Right.
It almost appears as though this is a preset, regurgitated excuse to keep the public from knowing. And they've really got to be forthcoming with this. And I believe, and the Attorney General, who knows, because it's a political office, we don't know if they're actually going to do something. But if they come to the retirement board and we go to executive session, I don't have any problem of showing them why we went into executive session, because almost exclusively when we go into executive session, we're talking about medical reports about people who are putting in for retirements. And as well as I do, those are protected.
Right, they're protected under HIPAA.
That's right. So
Right.
they are protected. And we don't want to, even if they weren't protected, we would not discuss people's personal records, in a public forum. And so when we go to executive session, we don't make a general statement like, well, we want to talk about like everything that ever came before the retirement board the last year. And I think the school department, especially, you hate to say it, but that's a big department. There's a lot of skepticism in the general public about what goes on with all those, in that mass of bureaucratic structure that they have in a school department. And I think this is, there's a valid point here. Are there things being discussed that don't belong in executive session, that are there only because they don't want the public to hear?
And Chip, the thing is, the way I interpret it, and again, I'm not an attorney, but even what I have been told, that when you request executive session, you have to be specific on the reason, okay? If Johnny Smith applied for a disability retirement from your board, in your executive session request on your agenda, you just put, executive session to discuss disability applications, or do you get specific on who it is or whatever it may be?
No,
not the minutia of what you're going to discuss in there, but that it's an application from John Smith for a disability retirement. And that's kind of specific.
No, we are very specific. If anybody, and they are aired on TV, and you can watch it. As a matter of fact, the last session, which was yesterday, We didn't go to executive session because we had already received the medical reports and the attorney's recommendation, and the action was purely an administrative action to go along with the, either go along or not go along with the medical panel's findings and stuff. But there was going to be nothing personal discussed. It was merely a vote whether to grant or not grant. But in previous sessions, what normally happens is when we get to these areas, the director will then say, we have a disability retirement for so-and-so and a disability request for this one, and they will name the people and not give any specifics, but name that these are the people, and we have, and they'll be specific on each one. We have a medical panel's report to review, or we have we have to receive, their application with their medical records will have to be reviewed to determine what action the board will take. And then she said, then she'll say, does the board want to convene an executive session for this? And then we always do, because obviously you can't do that in a public forum. And the cameraman who's filming the meeting will pick up his gear and leave the room. And then we always say, will there be any further business after the executive session? Normally we try to complete all the non-executive session business before, so when the cameraman leaves, he can just leave the building, because when executive session is completed, we'll adjourn the meeting. But it's very specific, and there's a reason. There's a legal reason that you have to be in executive session. And a lot of people used to tell me that. They'd say, well, why do you guys, it seems like you do all your business in executive session, the rest of the meeting is cut and dry. Well, it is, because somebody who's retiring on a superannuation retirement, who's worked for 35 or 40 years, and he's just on a regular retirement, there's nothing to discuss. The person's earned his retirement. Right. They're going off, they put in 30 years or 35 years or 40 years, and they've paid into the retirement system. They said, okay, I've reached the age of retirement, and I want to retire. So there's nothing to discuss. It's like, okay, these are superannuation retirements, make a motion, we grant the thing, and basically most of the business we do doesn't require a lot of discussion, except when you deal with specifics on medical and disability pensions, and that always has to be done in executive session. So, executive session is a requirement for many things, but it shouldn't be used as a shield to shield the public from maybe information they don't want to hear. And that's where a lot of people, especially when it comes to the school department, as I said before, they're extremely skeptical about these things. I mean, I'm not happy with the school department, period, with their muzzling of the public, saying you can only speak if you put on the agenda. Hey, I hate to tell you this, people, but you work for us. Citizens input, we're the government. And that bothers me about the school department. And I hope our mayor-elect changes that when he becomes, and our new school committee changes that to allow citizens input, to be citizens input.
Yeah, well, Chip, the thing is that, in my investigations before filing this complaint, and in discussing and having conversations with various members of the school committee, they actually take votes in executive session. And I'm like, you can't do that. I mean, granted, we all agree on the contract, we're going to move this forward. You vote on that contract in public session. You don't vote on that contract in secret, but they take the votes in secret and then they don't come back. That's wrong.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know if they have a legal right to do that. All I can say is that every organization that I've ever been a member of, we discuss private information in executive session, but the votes, as yesterday, we voted on a disability retirement in open session, in public, in front of the camera. We didn't discuss the medical report or the attorney's, opinions. We did, that had already been done in executive session, previously. And we got all these reports back. But when we vote on a disability retirement, we not only vote in public, we have a roll call vote where every single member has to go on record with their position.
And you know, but Chip, that's the thing. According to what I have found, okay, in my investigations, the school committee doesn't do that. And actually, a couple of school committee members said, oh no, we do that all the time. We hold the votes right in executive session. And I'm like, you can't do that. You got to take your vote in public. People have the right to know where you stand. If you're not going to support the teachers' union contract, even though they may have 4-2, you need to be able to say in public, no, I don't support this contract. And the people need to know you don't support it. Or if you do support it, the people have a right to know that you support it. I understand on getting your ducks in a row, okay, and in your executive session, well, how many people are for this? How many people are against this? Why are you against it? Let me see if I can finagle that a little bit. That's fine. That's negotiations. But when it comes down to the vote, that vote's got to be in public. Now, here's the kicker. And we heard about this even long before we spoke about it on the show, that they wanted to have the evaluation for the superintendent in executive session. And yet, Attorney Assad says, we never hold evaluations in executive session. Well, now I have it in writing from you, Attorney Assad, so guess what? I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to hold you to it because you just said it in your response. But I think it's just going to be a very interesting Monday night. And a lot of people have asked me on my status, and you know, even the Herald News has contacted me in regards to comments, and I said I'm not going to make comments just yet. I'm making them here first. I've been holding this envelope, as you know, Chip, for about a week. I wasn't sure if they were going to put it on the agenda or not, but it did come out on the agenda. But this is what happens in Fall River. Okay, when you file a complaint like this, and I know I'm the king of complaint filing, yay!
Yes, you are.
Patrick Higgins has got nothing on you.
Well, actually, Attorney Joe Macy turned around and told me that the only person who has him more inundated with complaints is Patrick Higgins. And I said, yeah, Patrick's my compatriot at this. But I think it's important that citizens force these people to comply with the law, because we know it doesn't happen. And now that we're speaking to attorneys, let's roll into Corporate Counsel Attorney Joe Macy. I tried to get a hold of him for well over a week, and I sent emails, and he opened the conversation with me that I don't particularly find it appealing that you attacked my secretary when you called. I didn't attack her, and as a matter of fact, after I got off the phone with Attorney Macy, I did call her and apologize if I was perceived that way, because I know I have a very strong personality, and sometimes I'm an ass.
Sometimes.
Yeah, just sometimes. And he said, I find it very uncomfortable to meet with the citizens to discuss these issues. Really? Who do you work for? You feel uncomfortable meeting with the citizens? And he said that the emails that I sent him, which by the way were in regards to the transference of funds to the sanitation fund, because I firmly believe that the city has now created a sanitation tax, he said it didn't require a response from me. Really?
Isn't that a job requirement?
Therein lies the rub.
That's where the rub is.
You know, because
I'm here for you guys to answer my questions.
Yeah. So she's practicing for 6 already. But Channel 6. But listen, the reality is that that's one of the problems I've always had with the bureaucracy of government, and at all levels of government, but especially city government. Listen, the reality is the Corporation Council is the biggest crock in the world. The Corporation Council is an attorney that's hired specifically to work for the mayor and the administration.
Okay.
I can't ever remember a Corporation Council ever coming down with a legal opinion that was contrary to the position that the administration that hired them wanted. So the reality is we're wasting $300,000 or $400,000 on the entire office of Corporation Counsel. We should hire a guy part-time for about 20 hours a week, like we did with Joe Macy, but not pay him 92 grand. But, you know, if they're going to fashion legal opinions that in every time there's an issue that requires, and remember, everybody, because this is part of the scam that they always use. They bring the Corporation Council down before the City Council, and everybody bows and says, oh, the Corporation Counsel, oh, this is what he says, so this is the law. No, it's not. It's a legal opinion. It's like anal sphincters. Everybody's got one. And some work better than others. So the fact is that it's an opinion. I don't care if he used to be a judge. He's not a judge anymore. He's a lawyer. And he fashions opinions, and most of them are wrong. They justify what the city does. So why do we have this huge legal department? If somebody sues the city, they could go out and contract some specialist to do that one thing, and we might even save money. Somebody should look into that, because, you know, that's the biggest scam ever perpetrated on the public. The law department, and the law department does nothing but act as shills for the administration. They justify everything they did. Well, we remember, don't we? We remember what happened when our law department said, oh, we didn't get the memo. We're going to win in court if we appeal this. And what happened? We lost. How many opinions did they render that were wrong again? And the thing is that this is part of that massive kind of matrix of BS that they create to justify their political positions. And this is one of their biggest and strongest things. How many times have we heard in front of the city council, well, the Corporation Council says, this is the way the law, this is what it means. And this is why every once in a while, when you actually get a counselor with a set, they say, we need our own legal counsel. But even that, to me, is foolish, because lawyers get paid to argue. And that's, well, it's true. That's what their job is. It's like, give a lawyer, hire 30 lawyers, give them something, you'll get 30 different legal opinions. That's what they do. And the reality is, the only legal opinion that counts is the legal opinion that the court rules in favor of, ultimately. So we're paying all this money for people to come up with opinions because we know one thing. Most of the time, even when they're full of crap, it flies, because the average citizen does not have the money, the time, or the inclination to spend their hard-earned money on a lawyer to fight City Hall. So many times, City Hall wins not because they're right, but because they're fighting you with your own tax dollars. And, you know, for Joe Macy to feel he's uncomfortable to it, of course he's uncomfortable, because he has to take a position that supports whatever the administration is doing. He doesn't want to talk to the public and answer all kinds of questions, because ultimately, you know what he's going to say? Well, that's my legal opinion.
Right.
And you know, it's almost pointless to talk to people, because that's what he's going to say to you. It's my legal opinion, and if somebody has a different opinion, they can take us to court, and we'll see what happens.
But, you know, that's always the story. Let's take us to court. And as a matter of fact, next week, on Monday or Tuesday, the Department of Revenue is supposed to meet with the city to certify its tax rate. Now, I did send out a formal complaint with copies of court decisions, more particularly Silva versus Fall River, where we've already lost a case where we assessed a fee and the court said, no, it's a tax. So, and they had to refund all that money. And I've asked DOR to return my phone calls. And I sent it directly to the commissioner. I did not send it to anyone else. And I sent copies of that to Judge Macy and several other people. And Judge Macy didn't feel it was necessary to answer it. DOR has always felt that their responsibility is not to answer to the citizens. So I was running the idea around in my head, and I said, you know what, I'm going to look into this. And technically, we can do just like happened to BizCo in the building department. We can go to court and get an emergency injunction to stop the Department of Revenue from issuing a tax rate until the case has a full hearing. You know, but do I want to take that money out of my pocket? Because you know what? I've already found out over time, and you as well, Chip. You guys out there, I gotta put on the Leo Pelletti thing. You guys out there don't have the cojones to do this. You can't put together a Christmas party, and because if you did, you'd forget the Christmas tree. You honestly don't have the backbone to call the city out. And that's the biggest problem we have. Okay? Oh, we can't do it. We're going to have to borrow money. We got to move this money now. We can't wait. You know, Linda, take your crybaby things and your whole marketing ploy of, look at me, I'm wonderful, I'm trying to table this, I'm trying to table this, I'm trying to table this. And Joe Camara, when you got a motion to table in second, that means you got to take the vote. That doesn't mean you discuss it. That doesn't mean you try to turn people around. That means you take the vote. It's non-debatable. But you don't know that.
You can't rescind a non-debatable motion. You got to vote on it.
That's right. But they did it 3 times. 3 times. So just on parliamentary procedure, I think the whole vote was illegal. But that's besides the point. I mean, it just gets me to be so frustrated that I just want to start screaming. And now for some sad news, because we have a whole bunch of other news that we have to go over, and I can't be out in the studio right now. But today is Niza's last show at the desk.
We don't know that yet.
Well, we know it's your last show at the desk.
We don't know. Oh, well, at the desk, yes.
We know it's your last show at the desk.
I could run the boards.
Okay, and Niza is leaving us for ABC TV 6 as an associate news editor. When we started Spindle City Straight Talk, it was a forum for us to make you, the public, aware, to educate you, the public, on how your tax dollars and how your government is failing to do their job. We extended that probably about 8 or 9 months ago when we started looking into going into some education for you, the public, besides the political aspects and the tax aspects. And we decided that we were going to open up our doors here at Spindle City Straight Talk and at South Coast Media for people to come on board and learn how to run the boards, how to be at the news desk, how to investigate the news, with the outcomes of having a job. And Niza has gone beyond any expectations that I set. I'm not sure about Chip, but you've gone beyond any expectations I ever had for you. And I wish you all the best of luck in your journalistic endeavors. Chip has a special certificate for you that I'd like for him to read on the air.
Absolutely. And I have no expectations. I'm a Zen Buddhist, and I feel that with expectations one only perceives the boundaries. As I told Niza when I first met her, don't expect too little or too much of yourself. Just do the best you can. And it was good enough for her to get a job at Channel 6. So and other people applied and they did it. So we're proud of her. So I am going to read this certificate. Spindle City Straight Talk Certificate of Appreciation is awarded to Niza Viñas for her support and dedication to independent journalism and her work on Spindle City Straight Talk, November 20th, 2015. There you are, Niza. Congratulations.
I just wanted to obviously give a little message to the people of Fall River. CJ and Chip are doing more than just being angry and complaining. They're making it aware that this is your city, and only you can make it better. And I was very happy to jump on board because I saw their mission along. Also, this is just an educational opportunity for me as I take a small step, but it's a good step towards my career. So thank you, Chip, and thank you, CJ, for the opportunity. And most likely I will start running the boards now. We don't know if I can sit at this desk at the moment. There could be a conflict of interest. But to the people of Fall River, thank you so much for watching. And keep watching because there's a reason to stay angry.
Remember, Niza, when you're a big-time reporter like Meredith Vieira, who started basically on a cable station in Fall River,
Yes.
when you're a big-time reporter, remember us little people down here.
It would be so bad for me not to, and impossible.
We'll never let you do it. So
Yeah, yeah. We'll be at every stage door to remind you who we are.
Thank you. Thank
Not
you
that
so
you'll ever forget us, but
That won't happen.
Niza, best of luck at ABCC 6.
Thank you.
Sure, you're going to do well. Stay angry, everybody. Stay involved.
And remember, this is your show, and we want to see you to continue watching us, and more important, we want to get you involved. If you're interested in coming on board, let us know. We're here. Have a great weekend.
Have
We'll
a
see
good
you on
one.
Monday.
Thank you.
That's right. Welcome to the People's Court.